In C++, you can take advantage of the vector data structure, which is kind of like the best of both worlds of the Java array and ArrayList. The vector is a dynamic array that I can initialize very similar to how I initialize an ArrayList in Java. I specify vector, and then in brackets, I specify the type that it's going to store, and then I specify its name. So here I've created a new vector called A that is initially empty. This will actually create the vector. I can add elements to it using the pushback method. So I can do a dot push underscore back 42. And now my array has a single element 42. Or my vector, sorry, not my array. I could then add another element, push back maybe 21. And now I have a second element in my vector. I can remove elements from the end using pop back, which will then remove the last element from my vector. So now it only has one element, 42. Just like Java arrays, I can access the element at a specific index using square brackets. So if I want to access 42, which is at index 0, 1 no longer exists, but 0, I could do a square bracket 0, and this will access the first element. In Java, if you try to access an element that's out of bounds, you'll get an array index out of bounds exception. But in C++, accessing an out-of-bounds index using the square brackets will not throw any errors. You could accidentally access an illegal index and access some garbage data with undefined behavior, and you wouldn't necessarily know it. So you have to be extra careful with regard to indexing. Just like the Java array or ArrayList, elements stored in a vector are stored one after another in memory. In other words, they're contiguous. If you assign one vector to another vector, so for example, if I do vector int b equals a, this will basically create a new vector b and copy all of the elements of a into b. So b will be a completely separate a. So let's say this is a, this is a vector that right now only contains 42 because we removed that one. If I do vector int b equals a, this will create a completely separate vector that copies over all of the elements that were in